Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. Happy Wednesday. I'm Jay Zawoski with Greg Boyson and Mario Tirabassi. Thanks, everybody, for being with us today. We appreciate that. Make sure you smash that like button on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page as well. Podcast listeners, subscribe, review, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We would really appreciate that. We are less than 24 hours away from the opening of Blackhawks training camp, which, holy crap,
it's finally
longest
here.
Off-season ever.
Until next offseason.
Until next offseason.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. It's finally here. Feels good. It's about time hockey season's starting.
And I'd just like to say, before we get any further, I feel glad, grateful that we are covering the least dysfunctional team in this city.
How about that?
Who would have thought the Chicago Blackhawks
Yeah, right.
would be the least dysfunctional team in this town of raging dumpster fires?
Knocking on wood to make sure it stays that way.
Yeah.
Hoping it stays that way.
Just a little bit of competency goes a long way
It's
in this
really,
city.
it's interesting. Some leadership
We've
and
got,
some...
God knows what's going on with the Bears. The White Sox are the White Sox. The Bulls are the Bulls.
hey, the Cubs looked good last night.
Yeah, the Cubs.
Thank you,
Cubs-
Pirates.
yeah,
Cubs are in the
well,
hunt.
Too bad the Cubs, don't get to play the Pirates if they make the playoffs. But the Cubs have a Muppet for a manager that refuses to play a young kid.
Muppet,
Finally
a
gets
Muppet.
him in
Oh,
there.
man.
Finally gets him in there and hits a grand slam. Maybe the kid should have been playing while
Hey.
the team was not beating anybody.
You know
Just
what?
me.
You know what?
I'll let
Maybe
Cody-
it wouldn't have happened without that motivation from Rossi.
Yeah, he sucks. I'll let Cody.
All right.
rant on that later tonight. But there we go. The Blackhawks are the least dysfunctional team in Chicago.
Woo! Nashville would hang a banner for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should get one made up, a
If
banner.
anybody-
Least dysfunctional team 2023.
Least dysfunctional in the month of September.
Exactly. Hey, man, after the way it's gone over the last couple of
Yeah,
years,
we'll
we will
take it.
absolutely accept that with a smile. All right, we got a lot to get to today. Oh, sorry,
We
go
should
ahead.
update the poll from this morning,
yeah.
by the way.
We ran a poll this morning on the old Twitter.
X.
Twitter. Which Chicago team gets the 2 wins first, the Blackhawks or Bears? Hawks season starts 10-9. I believe it's 10-10. I think that was a
10-10,
typo.
yeah.
10-10 in Pittsburgh. Bears play Kansas City, Washington, Minnesota, and Las Vegas between now and October 22nd. You'll be shocked to know that 86% of voters say the Blackhawks will have 2 wins before the Bears.
Blackhawks might have 2 wins before the Bears have 1.
I voted for the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
I out of the Bears' next 4 or 5 games, maybe they beat Denver. Maybe.
Bears would have problems beating Chicago State University right now.
Maybe.
I don't even know if they have a
I
football
don't think they have a team anymore.
I don't think so.
Well, maybe they have a shot then.
Maybe, just maybe. Things for right now, the Hawks seem good. And look, before we get into our storylines and hear from Kyle Davidson, we'll remind everybody, as we're very excited about the arrival of Connor Bedard and some of the young players that are going to be on the team, your expectation should still be growing pains,
Yes.
several more losses than wins most nights, missing the playoffs. That's the reality. But at least now, as Greg said last year was ground zero. This is year 1 of the rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
And with Connor Bedard here, you probably cut a year off the back, and you can maybe start to see the light peeking out at the end of the tunnel.
This is the most excited I've ever been for one of my favorite teams that I know isn't going to make the playoffs.
Yeah?
It's true.
And I think it's for good reason. I think this team's going to be way more entertaining than it was last year. The season is going to be way more entertaining than it was last year.
There's like an instant reward for having to put up with last season and all that bad hockey and losses and angst and hand-wringing. The instant reward is number 98 taking the opening night face-off.
All went to plan.
Yeah.
And then more rewards are coming over the next 2-3 years. It's a lot to be excited about. Not even just, the Hawks aren't going to make the playoffs, most likely. But there's Connor Bedard, there's younger defensemen. I'm excited to see what Taylor Hall's going to do playing with Bedard. I'm excited to see Blackhawk fans warm up to and eventually love Corey Perry.
It's not going to.
It's not gonna take long.
It will not take long.
By the time
I think the
for
ovation.
the home opener,
Yeah.
fans are going to love him.
Well, he's going to do something to Brad Marchand.
Captain Brad Marchand.
That'd be fun.
Yeah,
Captain.
there's going to be something there.
Hey, one way to endear yourself to your new fan base is to do something to
Punch
the
Brad
opposing team's
Marchand,
pud
yeah.
whack. So
Pudwack on
go for
Pudwack
it.
crime.
And then
pud on pud.
Hawks fans should be happy because Darren Pang is going to be in the booth this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's something that's
going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great for the broadcast to just have the same two guys there, except for, a few TNT games when Panger's got to go. But some of those games are probably going to be Blackhawk games.
Yeah.
Well, and then it'll be Kaylee Chelios regularly stepping in, and
Right.
she's great on the broadcast.
She is.
So her and Chris should do a fine job.
There's a lot to be excited about. Year 2, Luke Richardson. Let's go.
What's a good place to start? And as we get into the Kyle Davidson audio, Sarah, let's start with number 9. He was asked how this year feels different from last year to him personally.
How is your role different this year? Last year there were so many questions about who could be traded next and expectations of trades that could eventually happen. But the dust has kind of settled on that. So how is your feeling about camp different this year going into it for the second time?
It's a good observation. There's a lot more feel of just excitement for the games, I feel, this year, whereas last year there were a lot of questions around what could happen and what might happen to the roster, or a lot of discussion on what we did around the roster. And so this year it's much more just focused on the players that are here and not kind of the surrounding storylines. It's different for me just coming up here and talking, preparing for potential questions. But, I think every year brings a different set of challenges and opportunities. And so you're always busy. You're always kind of, dealing with a bunch of different things. But it feels a little more settled this year, to be honest, than walking into training camp, which in itself is nice. And to be, a little further, 1 year further into the rebuild, you start to give players more responsibility and opportunity, and with that brings excitement. And you also want them to make those steps, and so there's some nervousness there. And but it's all good because I think as we walk into training camp this year, it's all positive progress, and we've seen some progress from the young players, and that's what we want at the stage we're in.
It's cool to hear the GM sounding exactly like we do. Just last year, it was all about who's going where, and the games didn't matter. I think the three of us are all looking forward to a game ending and breaking down the game.
Yeah.
Because there are people here that matter. And last year, not to say that Kane and Taves didn't matter, but the story was, are they going to go? If so, where and for what?
Right.
Whereas this year, it's going to be Bedard, Reichel, Korchinski, Kaiser, Vlasic, and whoever else might get called up that we see as part of this future. It's going to be actual game analysis, and the games are going to matter again, and I simply cannot wait.
Yeah, I think this season, if they win a game, good. If they lose a game, darn. What can we learn from it? Not if they lose a game, hooray! And if they win a game, what are we doing? The sky is falling. Like, it's going to be a completely different feeling, game in and game out this season. And I think the cloud over last season was what's going to happen with Jonathan Taves, what's going to happen with Patrick Kane, Andres Athanasiou, Max Domi. Thanks for coming for 6 months. We'll see you later. Like, it was all that kind of feeling, and I don't have any. I'm sure as the season goes along, we'll get into those discussions and stuff. But I look at this roster, and there's not one player that I'm like, all right, what can we get for him at the trade deadline? I'm just like, they could keep this roster all season, and you're probably going to achieve the same thing that you're setting out to achieve from day one to game 82. Like, there's really no one I'm chomping at the bit at to be like, let's get him out of here. Let's see what we can get for him.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't going to be anybody like that. They still may make some deals,
Yeah, you still could do it.
Right. But there's not to the degree last year where, like, anybody and everybody must go. Now it's going to be like, maybe you trade a veteran or two because you have one of these young guys in Rockford that's just proving without a shadow of a doubt they belong in the NHL. So you're trying to create roster space for one of these young guys as opposed to just trade. That's part of the reason why Kyle Davidson acquired so many 2024, 2025 draft picks over the last couple of years. So he didn't have to do that fire sale every season. Mm-hmm. So he's got stockpile the picks. So if he only makes one trade at the deadline for a 4th or 5th round pick, say, Nick Foligno wants to go somewhere, go for a cup, and you only get a 5th round pick. It's not that big a deal.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to like the names you mentioned, Domi and Athanasiou. It was like hard to embrace any of those guys because they all felt so short term.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, they're all going to be gone. So why am I going to invest in, like, even for fans? Like, are they going to buy a Max Domi jersey? No.
Some did.
I know. It's crazy. But
They
like,
talked themselves into that he was going to come back.
yeah.
Because we love him so much, he's got to come back. Well, money talks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I bought my CHGO belly bomb shirt. And I'm like, well, I better wear this while I can.
Yeah, right.
Because he might be gone in 2 months,
Yeah.
And look at that. Look at Sarah. Like, how'd
Great
you know?
design. That's such a
That's
good
crazy.
design to only
It is.
care about it for like 3 months.
I know. I liked it too much.
Well, they got to re-sign him now.
because
Yeah,
I bought
now
the
they
shirt.
have to. Yeah.
Yeah. Get yours at chgolocker.com.
I just ordered my Meatball Island orange shirt today.
Yeah, I got
Nice.
one of those too.
Nice.
Hopefully
Payday. I had to wait to payday.
Nice. Pay back the company that just paid us.
Exactly.
So yeah,
In shirts.
it's just it's going to be awesome to have a season that matters, and it's cool to hear the GM feel that way too, because
Yeah.
he knew last year was not about wins and losses. It was more about losses than anything, and just getting ready to begin this next era, which begins tomorrow, which is awesome. All right, the next cut we have from him, kind of on the same wavelength. Mario, I believe this was your question, asking if the roster is pretty much set as it stands right now.
Yes, this was my question.
Yes.
Specifically
You were
about
trying to
one
goad him into
aspect of the offseason that I have been paying attention
I-
to.
You were feisty yesterday, by the way. There were a couple of questions you had that he was like, I'm going to pass on that one, and I'm going to pass on that
I
one.
mean, when's the next time we're going to talk to him, right?
Hopefully soon.
Mario is bringing the heat, and when you asked this question, I don't think you heard it because you were across the room, but I audibly chuckled because I knew why
did?
you asked. I was like, okay.
Oh, that's good.
By the way, real quick, addressing the stuff in the chat, I would just make sure you check your sources.
What happened?
What Stephen
Steve.
Hoffman's talking about.
Yeah.
Just let's wait until people who are there and people who cover
save
the
it-
team
save
are.
it for the Bears show too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we have no
But
informa-
we're not
we-
going to talk about that.
We
at
have
all
no
on the show.
information on that, and also
Nor do I.
we have people who are with CHGO that were there today. They'll have that information if there's any information to have.
And if they were there and that happened, they would probably be telling you. Okay,
yeah. Anyways,
let's hear if the roster is
Kyle
set or
Davidson.
not.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think we'll be adding established NHL PTOs. As far as waiver wire, we'll take a look at how people look early in camp, and if we want to add something off the waiver wire like we did with Tenorti last year, that's potentially something we will explore if the right opportunity arises. Taking a chance on Jared last year is it's been a great fit, and so we don't want to neglect ourselves from a similar opportunity again should it come up. So yeah, it's something we'll explore on a case-by-case basis.
here lies the Phil Kessel dream.
You're right.
Not necessarily. What if he signs with a team, then gets put on waivers, and they claim him off of waivers? The dream is still alive. He said
Sure.
no PTOs.
That's true.
But he didn't rule out claimer waivers. So there's still
Don't do this
a
to him.
sliver of hope.
No.
He has to sign a contract, then get put on waivers, and then claimed off of waivers.
He had already coped. He had 24 hours to cope with it. Now you've relit the fire that burns.
Good. I don't want the Phil Kessel of the Chicago Dream to ever die.
It will never die.
It will never
die
That's
until.
his spirit. Attaboy.
Keep it going.
Speaking of which, happy anniversary to Phil Kessel with probably the greatest tweet a hockey player has ever sent. On this day in 2016, during the World Cup of Hockey, Phil Kessel tweeted out from his account, pkessel81, just sitting around the house tonight with my dog, felt like I should be doing something important, but couldn't put my finger on it. That was a subtweet, as the kids say, to, I can't believe this was a thing, Team USA World Cup of Hockey head coach John Tortorella's roster creation for that tournament, in which he left Phil Kessel out and rather would have a grindy gritty roster for a 5-game tournament.
How'd that work out for Team USA?
They did not
They didn't win.
do anything.
I know
Did
that.
not do anything. Sweet jersey, though. I bought one. So happy anniversary, Phil. That was great twittering.
Today is also the 9-year anniversary of my daughter meeting Teuvo Teravainen outside of a Chipotle in South Bend
Oh,
and being absolutely terrified. I sent the
an
picture to Sarah. She'll
that's an
grab
even
it
better
later.
anniversary.
Tavo was the same age then as your daughter is now.
Seems like it, right? Just such a terrifying figure, Teuvo
gosh.
Teravainen. But
Yes.
yeah, well, Sarah's gonna grab that photo and we'll show you in a little bit.
One of my favorite pictures. It's a good one.
that's
It
so
is.
good.
It's pretty good. Should I wait, Sarah? Should I stall? Looks like she's very close to ready.
On the fly
That is quick.
graphics.
That one should just be saved and put in a folder with September 20th. dates
Yeah,
on
really.
it.
Yeah.
So this was at South Bend when the Hawks had their training camp there. We were in Chipotle and Tavo and a bunch of the Hawks walked in, and we went to take a picture, and Addie was scared of him as if he was a
No,
demon from another dimension.
you.
Maybe
As
she
if-
thought he was a mascot.
Yeah, I was gonna say as if he was a mascot. Yeah.
Dude, she's still scared of mascots. We were at a function for her school, and 7th graders were wearing the mascots for the various schools in Homewood, and she's
Yeah.
like, I can't go. I go, you know who's in there. You know that you're older than them.
Oh,
Nope, I
gosh.
can't go near him. She's
interesting.
terrified. She's a strange child.
Stick to the bit.
I'd have it no other way. All right, the last little bit of audio we have from Kyle Davidson. He talks about how this team is constantly building culture. This, again, kind of off of your question. We don't have the front part of it here. Go ahead. Yeah, start it.
Phrase it because I don't want it to get construed. Given everything that happened in Columbus with Mike Babcock and everything, obviously that's a topic around the league, and the Blackhawks, are doing a lot to make sure that they're doing the right things in their organization. I just laid it out to Kyle as, does seeing what happened in Columbus give you some sort of opportunity to reflect on what you guys are doing and take a look at everything and be sure of what you're doing internally to make sure that you're doing the right things when it comes to bringing in people to the organization at any level, whether it's coaches or whether it's, development staff or it's someone in ticket sales. Like, basically that was kind of laying everything out, sort of a softball, but just kind of giving him giving him an opportunity to kind of speak about the culture that the organization continues to try and lay
Added
out.
context, too, is you did ask specifically about what Quenneville and Stan Bowman had to say to the assembled GMs at
Yeah,
the GM meetings,
yep.
and he sort of said, they were not on the record there, so I'm going to honor that and not say
Yeah.
anything. So this is not a follow-up, but a second question in the same mold, so it may have influenced his answer a little bit, too.
Sure.
So let's hear what Kyle Davidson had to say.
We're always trying to make sure that we're better than we were previously. You're always trying to clean up blind spots. You're always trying to improve culture. Making sure that you're doing everything you can to make a safe space for staff, players, anyone that enters your organization, and that's the responsibility that is on your shoulders when you're in a position like myself. I take that very seriously, and it's something that the organization takes very seriously, right from the top. And so, always trying to get better, always trying to refine things and close our blind spots and make sure that that we're doing everything we can to make our work environment for staff and players as safe and comfortable as possible.
There you have it. And obviously saying all the right things. As with anything, actions speak louder than words. Show us instead of telling us. And I think that it's kind of naive to think that any organization will forever avoid a hire that maybe they didn't know everything about or something slipped through the cracks they didn't have any evidence of. The Babcock thing is not that. They should have known.
No.
But it's good to see that they are constantly evaluating the way they're operating. I think that really begins at the top with Danny Wirtz and Jamie Faulkner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something that they were working on last year and and before that, just trying to kind of, look at how they operate and different things that they want to accomplish and tones that they want to set. And I think one of the bigger things was, in recent years, bringing in a mental skills coach to the team, and not just focusing on, hey, how's your mental game on the ice, but how are things going off the ice as well. I think players have spoken about over the last 2 years, at least since we've been doing this, players have said before about how they've been able to kind of go into those spaces, and it's not just necessarily focusing on how they feel about hockey. They're able to also kind of talk about life and different things like that, and allowing that space to be available. So I think it's a good thing that the Blackhawks are doing. It seems like they're definitely learning from things that have happened in the past about what they need to keep their eyes on and keep their fingers on the pulse of the organization in all different facets. And as far as the team culture goes, I think Davidson and Jamie Wirtz and Danny Wirtz and Jamie Faulkner are focusing on at the top, and what Luke Richardson is also implementing too. So I think top to bottom, it's going well so far.
Yep,
that's all you can hope for.
Yeah, everybody, every team, every person makes mistakes in life or in business or with your team. Blackhawks made some major mistakes the past regime. They've obviously learned from those mistakes and are trying to take those lessons to prevent things like that happening again. And that's all you can ask for. Will there be slip-ups along the way? Time will tell, but they've learned from that whole situation, and they're trying to prevent things like that happening again. Making players know that it's okay if something's not right. You can tell us, and we'll address it. You don't have to have this fear, of not being able to speak out if something coming out. That's where it starts. I mean, once the players feel safe and feel comfortable, it just that's how you build things, and that's where it starts.
That's what culture is.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's very good to hear. We've seen some action to that, as long as it's continual and it's an effort. And I don't think, with so many eyeballs on the organization after, the whole scandal, I think they're trying very carefully to avoid missteps.
Yeah. And I think
it comes to those things.
Also, it's how they react when something inevitably does happen. Mm-hmm. There's going to be another, not like a Kyle Beach level incident, knock on wood, but something, right? Some sort of, maybe a ticket agent gets a DUI or something. You know what I mean? Like, just whatever. Mm. How do you handle it when these things arise? And I think one thing I think they did learn from the Kyle Beach thing is you can't have a person in your organization like John McDonough, who is so powerful and so without question and so ruling with an iron fist over everything from your tie is too short, your tie is too long, your skirt is too short, your skirt is too long. Yeah, like micromanaging every little thing. So every employee in the organization from top to bottom felt terrified to go to him or talk to him or about him to anyone. From what I can tell now, the leadership is nothing like that. Yeah. Very approachable, very forward-facing, not just taking credit behind the scenes and then disappearing when things get tough. That I think they sort of set themselves up for that because John McDonough always had this squeaky, smiley guy, I'm Mr. Cubby's reputation. That's not at all how he was. Mm-mm. He was a dictator behind the scenes, and employees feared John McDonough. And you didn't know who you were getting walking into the office every day. That's not the case now. It's just not. And I think by not having someone with that sort of a power and that sort of a presence, you're allowing not just Mackenzie Entwistle or Taylor Hall to go to Luke Richardson or Kyle Davidson and say, hey, this is wrong. But for, Joe in marketing to say, hey, I'm not being treated fairly here, right? And I think Jamie Faulkner is very approachable in that way. Danny Wirtz is very approachable in that way. And both seem incredibly conscious of that and aware of that, which is great.
Yeah, I have no doubts that if there were any situation like that, people within the organization, whatever level it is, would be able to go within the organization and go through the proper channels and have it dealt with however it needs to, and not have a situation like in Columbus where players couldn't go to their coaching staff, couldn't go to their management. They had to go to Paul Bissonnette to express what was going on. So I would like to believe that the Blackhawks have that inner trust within the organization, and how that has been built over the last few years, and I think built back up too is important too. So again, it's one of those aspects of being excited about this team and this organization, is because I actually feel good about, like, I can feel confident in, well, I don't know about management, I don't know about all this. I can actually feel good about where they are in that spot. And we were talking about, earlier this week, where the Blackhawks are in the city. It's one of those check boxes that's like, oh yeah, I trust management. I trust how the organization is being run. It's one of those things that is a factor in fandom. So that's what I'll have to say about that.
Want to tell us about Sunnyside?
Sure. I will tell you about
I butchered
Sunnyside.
it yesterday, so you have to take it over.
Sunnyside. Hey, Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. They are your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. A great place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your football and soon-to-be hockey season. No matter where you are on your cannabis journey, easy online ordering is available through Sunnyside, and in-store pickup is there too. They also have a great transparent royalty program called Sunnyside Rewards. They are Illinois' favorite dispensary, and how can you argue with the litany of in-house brands that Sunnyside has? You got the Mindy's gummies, the best tasting gummies and chocolate edibles created by James Beard award-winning chef Mindy Siegel, along with Cresco Labs. You have the High Supply, which offer quality weed that's always available. Buds are expertly grown, lab tested, and available in vape carts, vape pens, flour, popcorn, shakes, pre-rolls, shorties, and concentrates. Now, I'm a noob with Sunnyside and the many different cannabis ways that you can enjoy it. I asked about flour before. When I say popcorn, are we talking about like movie theater popcorn that has weed in it?
That I'm not familiar with, to be honest with you.
Anybody?
Well, you have to
on
get
the
some,
floor?
bring it in.
Are you talking about
and
like edibles?
It
like
says
popcorn edibles?
buds are expertly grown, lab tested, and available in vape carts, vape pens, flour,
Right here.
popcorn, shake, pre-roll, shorties, and concentrates.
Popcorn buds, as the name implies, are buds just about or a little smaller than popcorn. They're usually B-grade buds that don't have the bag appeal of large, lustrous A-grade nugs.
So it's like shake. It's like if you want it, so it's cheaper if anything, but it's still
a
quality.
it's still
quality.
like a lump of marijuana flour.
Okay.
Whereas
Yeah.
shake is more of like a remnant, right?
Yeah, like the
Like
bottom
if you put
barrel.
it in a
grinder?
grinder,
Yeah.
shake is what's left over.
Okay.
But these are just little smaller buds.
I'm
Probably
sure
cheaper.
they have popcorn edibles
buds all
though.
day, as they say.
You
Buds
can
all
put weed
day.
on anything, man.
That's true.
Put your weed
That
in
is
it.
true.
It's like oregano. Just sprinkle it right on.
Especially when you get it from Sunnyside. Now through October 15th, head to sunnyside.shop and use the code CHGO25 at checkout. When you do, you're going to get 25% off of your total order. That is one use per customer and is not stackable with other promotions. But it is not only for new customers. Anyone can use that code CHGO25 and get 25% off of your total order. Pick up everything you need to elevate your football season, and you're going to need it with the Bears this year. You must be 21 or older or a Illinois medical card holder.
And if you're not quite ready to start your cannabis journey, which is understandable,
Sure.
do it at your own pace, whatever you need to do. There's other ways to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Can I recommend maple pepper bacon,
Always.
French toast bacon,
Of course.
chorizo bacon,
Yes.
jardiniere bacon? They're all wonderful.
They are.
And you know how to consume those at all times.
In my mouth.
Hit up our buddy, Charlie the Bacon Guy. Based in Woodridge, he makes craft bacon and bacon jams in over 30 flavors. It's always all natural, no fancy preservatives. Order tons of it. It's vacuum sealed and freezes great. Bacon
good.
lasts in packages up to 45 days in the fridge and 6 months in the freezer. P.S. Charles, I know you have to say that to be safe. I have found older bacon of yours, much older than 6 months, and it's fine out of that freezer. I promise you. The bacon jam lasts about 60 days in the fridge, but you're going to eat it long before that. So stock up, order a lot, and I say this all the time. People are always looking for creative gifts for, friends' birthdays, like Father's Day, Christmas, like whatever. Order a bunch of bacon, freeze it up, bring it in a cooler. It is creative. It is a thoughtful gift, and who's not going to love that? Here's how you order from Charlie. Follow him on Instagram. There's some bacon pornography on there, too.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie the Bacon Guy on Instagram, CZ the Bacon Guy on Twitter, and you can email him, charliethebaconguy@gmail.com. His website is coming soon. He has been a longtime sponsor of my I'm Fat podcast, and we are thrilled to have him here at CHGO Sports, and welcome him back in the studio anytime.
Anytime.
As long as he's not empty-handed.
Anytime.
I still have the shawarma bacon. We have yet to consume it. I don't know why we waited this long, but what we're going to do is we're going to take the shawarma bacon, we're going to cook it up, we're going to buy some pitas and some tzatziki sauce,
Yeah.
and have like bacon gyros.
That is
Absolutely.
a good
So we're
idea.
just waiting for the next
And
opportunity to do
if it's
so.
not clear, he can ship to you. If you're in the Western Burbs, you can work out a delivery thing, a pickup
He's
thing.
very flexible.
He will make it work for you. Hit up Charlie the Bacon Guy on Instagram, CZ the Bacon Guy on Twitter, and charliethebaconguy@gmail.com.
That might be the best looking ad graphic we have.
It's pretty sexy. We just leave that up the whole
A nice
show,
pile
man.
of bacon. Like, you're never going to go wrong
I
with
can
that.
smell that graphic.
Scratch your screen. There you go. Let's see if it works. All right. Next on the docket for today, this morning at CHGO Sports, ALLCHGO.com, the three of us published our biggest storylines heading to training camp. And we're not going to share all of them, but we're each going to select one from our writings and discuss it a little bit on the show. So, Mario, as you were the guy who built the skeleton of the story, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, we all touched on Connor Bedard, and we've spent all summer talking about him. So Connor Bedard starts his official big, grandiose Blackhawks career tomorrow. So that's going to be a lot of fun. One thing that I wrote about as a storyline going into training camp and is basically behind Connor Bedard, one of the biggest storylines through training camp at least, is what's going to happen with Kevin Korchinski. Where is he going to spend his season? Is it going to be half and half, NHL and minors? Or juniors? Is it going to be just a test run in the NHL and then basically 90% of his season is going to be in Seattle? Is it going to be all year in Chicago? We're going to find out how the Blackhawks are going to use him. Talked about it yesterday. They are going to let his play and his readiness either shine or look crash and burn. And that, I think, is the way to go. You don't necessarily have to have the preconceived notion that he is an NHL player now or he is not yet. Like, let his play dictate that. So through the training camp, opening a training camp, through the first few preseason games, which I expect he'll play in at least a few of them, it'll be fascinating to see how the Blackhawks use him. We're gonna go through our lineup predictions for the opening night roster. He is a name that I think you will hear later on in the show.
Yeah, and speaking of that opening night roster, we actually have real training camp battles this year.
Yes.
On that bottom six. Last year, heading into training camp, the roster is pretty much set. We knew who was here. And we lost 4 regular forwards from last year's roster. Patrick Kane's not here. Jonathan Taves. Max Domi was traded. And our guy, Sam Lafferty.
Yes.
But they have been replaced with 6 new faces. Taylor Hall, Nick Foligno, Corey Perry, Ryan Donato. Perhaps you've heard of this Connor Bedard guy.
Yeah.
And now Lucas Reichel is a full-time NHL.
Full-time, yeah.
So do the math. 4 guys, old guys out, 6 new guys in. That means 2 guys that were regulars last year are not going to be on this team come opening night. And the 4 guys that are going to be in battling out for 2 spots, Colin Blackwell, Boris Kachuk, Reese Johnson, Mackenzie Entwistle. Those were 4 guys that were pretty much in the lineup every night. They were in the NHL the whole season. Only 2 of those guys are going to make this team out of camp. The other 2, we'll see. Rockford, or elsewhere. Those 4 guys I'm going to be keeping an eye on. If I had to like handicap it, I would think if we get in training camp the Boris Tkachuk we had in March and April,
Yeah.
you can't keep him out of the lineup. He was really good.
I can. Sorry, not sorry.
He was very effective down the stretch. If
No,
we
he
get
was.
that
he
guy,
was.
No,
Yes,
he
he
was.
was.
if we get the guy we had from October to
Most of the
March, then
season.
no, he's
Yeah.
gone.
Well, and the interesting thing with those battles is, you also have to consider, waivers.
Right.
If you're sending guys down, who's going to have to go through waivers to get to Rockford? Tkachuk would have to go through. Entwistle would have to go through. Blackwell would have to go through. Cole Gutman is waivers exempt. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of belief that he'll make the NHL roster, but if he's a guy that is on that bubble, that consideration might be the difference between someone
Yeah.
like him or Tkachuk going up and down just based off of the potential of having to go through waivers.
That's a valid point. But, I mean, if Cole Gutman looks good, I'd risk losing Reece Johnson to waivers to make sure Cole Gutman
Oh, he's your
is
future
playing.
captain. How can you do that? Well, him and Seth Jones have to fight for it.
Yeah, but the other guy, like Tkachuk, I think is if he plays like he did, he's got the inside track. I know we love Mackenzie Entwistle, but I think he might be in trouble to start the year in Chicago. I don't think Reece Johnson's starting the year in Chicago. Maybe obviously injuries can come. I know Colin Blackwell. We have some fun at his expense during the games, but I think I think Colin Blackwell has an advantage because of his speed. He's the fastest of those guys. And
That's
this
true.
is how Luke Richardson wants to play. They want to play fast. He's got speed. There's no doubt about that. And he's pretty effective on the penalty kill, too. So he may have the advantage just because if they want to keep team speed, he'll have the advantage over Entwistle and all those guys, really.
Yeah,
that's true.
So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to watch real battles for roster spots.
It's interesting. I also wonder, Luke is old school, not to the problematic point where he's a meathead, but I wonder with Connor Bedard and Kevin Korchinski probably and some other young guys on the roster, if he's going to want a guy on the team that's a little willing to drop the gloves, that losing for 5 minutes might not be the end of the world, and I wonder if that gives Reece Johnson a bit of an advantage as a guy who makes the team out of camp.
You got Corey Perry.
Right, but I feel like they probably, in the grand scheme of things, if you got to pick 5 minutes without Perry or 5 minutes without Johnson, it's an easier pill to swallow with Johnson. But
Sure, if both Johnson and Perry are in your lineup, sure.
yeah, I mean, I kind of, I don't know. I feel like there's a little more there for Reece Johnson. I don't know why. I'm not ready to move on from him. I think.
I'm not ready to move on from him either. But
Yeah, I know, but I think with like Colin Blackwell, he kind of is what he is, and it's not bad. Like you could do worse than Colin Blackwell. I think Boris Tkachuk, is he closer to the guy we saw for 1 month or for 6?
Right.
And really more than 6 when you go to the year before, right? Sample size tells me maybe he's not quite as bad as when he was at his worst because we know last year he was really like we saw him in practice. They would just be warming up and he'd miss the net and just be like,
Fighting it,
Jesus, you know what I
For
mean?
sure.
He looked like a beaten man. So we'll see. It's going to be really interesting to see play out.
just because 2 of those guys aren't on the opening night roster doesn't mean they're not playing in the NHL this year.
Correct.
No, obviously,
yes.
there'll be a rotation.
They'll
for whatever reason.
one of the topics Kyle Davidson talked about yesterday was how fortunate they were health-wise that they didn't have to rely on the Ice Hogs as much last year.
Yeah.
So, say it's Mackenzie Entwistle and Colin Blackwell that have to start in Rockford. Well, when you have now you're going to get better options to call up when you have injuries. So instead of somebody goes down, instead of calling Luke Philp and Brent Seney up, no disrespect to those guys, but you're going to call up a Mackenzie Entwistle or Reece Johnson who have 2 full seasons of NHL experience with this team, so you'll have better options to call up from the Ice Hogs than you did a year ago because of that.
And I think because they have that potential advantage is why I'm a little cautious to think that anyone of like Nolan Allen or Del Mastro or Doc or anything like that are going to be the first call-ups if they're playing well. That's why I feel like because there are so many plug-and-play, more veteran guys, that's why I feel like those guys are going to be there while the younger players stick in the AHL more. Because you also have guys like Mike Hardman and Joey Anderson in that group as well. Very, very well done. So I feel like there's a lot of, I'm going to say, padding between calling up a guy who's young, even if he's playing well. Like maybe it's just like, okay, we'll keep playing well in Rockford. We don't need you to come up. We don't need you to go from playing 15, 18 minutes a night in Rockford and playing well to playing 8 minutes a night in a fourth line or third pair role or whatever. If it's not going to be conducive to development, so it's a good problem to have where they didn't really have that last year. We were clamoring like call up Reichel every time that they needed a forward, and it would be like here, like you said, here's Luke Philp, here's Brett Cini, here's David Gus signing his first NHL contract. Great story, great guy, but they have better options now.
Yes, they do.
That's one of the things I wrote about, but it's not what I'm going to talk about right now.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about, to me, what is the most compelling and difficult decision for Luke Richardson is the defenseman.
Yep.
There's a lot of tough decisions coming here. The Hawks, prospect-wise, don't have a lot of right-shot defensemen. On the roster, you have Seth Jones, Connor Murphy, and Nikita Zaitsev. Those are your right-shot defensemen. Lefty are Tenorti, Vlasic, Kaiser, Phillips, Roos. We can go down the line, but we're going to stop there because those seem to be the most likely right off the bat.
Right.
So how does it shake out? It feels like, based on what Davidson said yesterday, that Korchinski's going to at least start the season with a look. We'll probably have a better feeling after watching a couple preseason games as to how he's handling NHL speed, NHL decision-making, etc. But I would expect him to be here for at least 7 or 8 games. I would guess longer. So there's one left defense spot.
Yep.
I don't know how you look Alex Vlasic in the face and say you're going back down to Rockford. I don't know how you do that. Right, get on a stepladder and do it. I think he has done everything they've asked him to do. He looks NHL ready. He's got NHL size. He looked really good his first year with Seth Jones.
Yeah.
Didn't do it as much with him. He was more with Murphy last year. And, again, looked the part when he came up. I don't know how you say no to him. Wyatt Kaiser has been fantastic in rookie camp. They put a C on him for the rookie showcase game, which, again, maybe not a big deal. But you're also looking at the 2 guys they scratched for that second game who they deemed too important to risk, Connor Bedard and Wyatt Kaiser. Those were the 2 that sat. So it feels like he's got a spot. So from there, there's some big decisions to make. Someone's going to have to play under offside, maybe.
Maybe.
I just don't know how it's going to shake out. There's a lot of ways this can go. And I think one way or another, you're either going to have to send a kid to Rockford that you don't want to, or you're going to have to ask a veteran or potentially a kid to play under offside. It's tough. I do not envy this decision for Luke Richardson.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Well, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
I do think, and we'll get into that as we, I'll save it for when we reveal our opening night lineup predictions. But, it's a good, it's nice to have some depth.
Yeah.
Like,
have options.
Organizational depth. You have more of it this year. If someone went down last year, it was like, oh, great.
Right. Yeah.
Great. Who's coming up? Not that we cared. We didn't want a good player coming up.
I'll do it.
But now it's like, okay, we're going to have to send good players down to Rockford, which is not a bad thing necessarily.
That's good for Rockford,
our
too.
bottom 6 is going to look so much better this year than it did last year. Like, we've got 3rd and 4th liners that actually can
play 3rd and 4th
can
line.
maybe score every once in a while, at least threaten to score. We didn't have that at all last year. When the bottom 6 was out there, it was like, just don't get scored on.
Right, yeah.
Now you actually got guys that have done it in the NHL for a long time, can put the puck in the net. At least gives teams, okay, we at least have to worry about this line when they're on the ice of potentially scoring a goal. So it'll be good. It's nice to come into a camp with some storylines outside of which guys are being traded.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as, the defensemen shake out, I mean, we talked a lot about, guys that are going to have opportunities. And when we filled out our defensive lineups, and I looked at it and I was like, wow, we all have a very similar thought about, the youth of this team and the opportunities that they're going to get. So, again, it's why I'm really excited going into this year compared to last year, is because now it's just like, okay, last year was a big tear down tank year of a rebuild. Now it's just like figuring out this year, what are the new pieces? What do the young pieces have to offer? And I think defensively we're going to get a lot of those young pieces thrown into it. I mentioned before, like, you're probably going to see like Allen and Del Mastro stick in Rockford for the majority of the season. Nolan Allen's been working on playing the right side a lot since coming into the organization. He's a left shot guy, but playing on the right side. They had him playing on the right side in the Tom Curver's showcase tournament with Korchinski on the left. He's probably going to play that role in Rockford. I don't know. Maybe he's a guy that at the end of this regular season, gets a bone tossed his way and says, come on up and play on the right side and see how things go. With knowing where their depth is there, because you got Nikita Zaitsev, who I think the Blackhawks could very easily say, like, thank you for your service, but please get out of our way, and they wouldn't be losing much of anything.
If he was a left defenseman, it would be so much easier.
It would be, yeah.
But since they don't have a third right, it might make sense to keep him around.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not awful.
He's serviceable.
Right, he's overpaid.
Right.
But he is a good defenseman.
He's a third pairing defenseman.
Yes.
NHL
Yes.
third pairing defenseman.
Yes.
He can be on an NHL roster.
So as we all kind of like roll our eyes and want to like shoo him away because he's not part of the future, he does help provide some veteran. So he's got a little bit of offense and defense to his game.
He's Olimata.
Yeah.
No.
He's a little bit faster than that.
I just mean like that same type of, not as bad as we thought, as people say he is.
I don't know. I think he was. Yes, the contract inflates how you look at him, but I think on ice he was as bad as I think we all were expecting him to come in and be. I don't know. I think he's one of the easier players that you can say, hey, thank you for your time, but Isaac Phillips needs to get some minutes. Or,
Yeah.
Best case scenario, he starts the season with the team, plays well. Some team has a rash of injuries at defense. You retain half his salary and trade him for
Future considerations.
yes,
Sure.
And then you
Thank
move
you for
on.
your time.
Yeah.
That's the best case scenario. But otherwise, if he's your 6th, 7th defenseman all season long and he's fine with jumping in and out of the lineup, he's not going to kill you.
Let's play this game really quick. Would you rather have Zaitsev or Caleb Jones?
Caleb Jones only because there's still some potential there.
Yeah, upside.
But
Me too.
yeah,
Whatever Seth would rather have.
holy mata.
Maybe. All right, we're going to get to our lineup predictions that I already hate mine. It's like a fantasy draft.
Oh yeah.
I hit publish. I'm like, shit, I hate this. But first, I want to get a couple things from No Roids, a couple good points on my Reese Johnson comment. Jared Tenorti's there. He can drop the gloves. He can handle that.
Can, yes.
There was another one from No Roids I wanted to point out too, Sarah, if you could pull it up.
Couple
I
super
don't remember
chats
what
we
it
can
was. I just remember it was good.
Get to as well.
We also got our super chats from Young Dale. We're going to get to. Oh, yeah, here. He says it's starting to look like a log jam if a lot of these prospects start hitting their strides.
That's a good
One
bad
thing
thing.
Kyle Davidson has said, too, is not every prospect is going to play here. They can also be used as bargaining chips, and they
Right,
can be
right.
used as trade bait. And if they do want to find a veteran defenseman to come in and play the right side that they could see being here for the next 3-4 years, maybe you're willing to move an Isaac Phillips or somebody like that. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
ways to go. Young Dangle God says he gave us a 99-cent super chat, but he said that Greg's math was wrong. With Kaner resigning any day now, it's really only one open roster spot.
But then he also asked me, would I be annoyed if Kane went to Toronto? No, not at all.
With what money?
You can Matt Murray is going on LTIR, but yeah.
Wasn't that already factored in?
And they wouldn't be able to wear number 88 because William Nylander already has
That's
it.
true.
So
Maybe Patrick Kane can play center for them too.
I would love to see Patrick Kane in Toronto and have to deal with that media after dealing with the
He'd deal with
relatively easy Chicago media he's had.
He would deal with it fine.
And then Windy City Hockey has a
Or
$2
the
super
fans.
chat saying, if Kachuk is waived, does Korchinski take 14?
No.
Yeah, you know, I was
No.
surprised.
55 is way
When
better
we
than
talked to
14.
him,
If he's waived and then claimed and 14 is available, I would assume, take it.
when we talked to Korchinski, he didn't seem like he loved 55.
No.
And like he wanted 14. I'm like,
Yeah, he does.
55 is such a cool number.
It is. It does look a lot better out there. And plus, seeing 14 on the back end, it's only going to give me nightmares of Chris Campoli. I
Yeah.
don't want that.
That's
I
true.
don't want that.
That's true.
14 is lame.
It's
a
such
lame
a
number.
Yeah, it's like the people that wanted Bedard to wear 16.
Name one good hockey player that's worn 14.
Theo Fleury, Brendan Shanahan.
Okay, that's two.
It's a bad game to play with me.
All right. There's two.
But I stopped at 2.
A lot better guys have worn 55.
Agreed.
Larry Murphy.
Eric
Eric
Daze,
This is good.
Keith Primo.
There you go.
There's more, I'm sure.
Ben Eager.
Yeah, Benny.
Just say good players.
Oh,
He was fine. And I wore 55 in high school,
There you
just
go.
like Charlie.
Yeah.
See?
Double
Making it
nickel.
the coolest number ever. And Doug Buffone, my guy. R.I.P. All right.
Otis
That's right. Mama's boy Otis. Tripod. All right. Did Greg tell us about Shady Rays? Or no, Ray
no.
CDJR.
No, we're not doing the
I got my
Shady
days
Rays
wrong.
today. We're doing the
Different
other
Ray.
Ray.
Ray, there's so many Rays,
Yes.
so little time.
There are a lot of Rays, but this Ray is going to help you if you're in the market for a new vehicle. And if you are, then we've got some great news for you because Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Fox Lake have just joined the CHGO team. At Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest invoices and find unforgettable savings. And right now, during Jeep Adventure Days at Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Fox Lake, you'll be able to take up to 15% off MSRP on all new 2023 Jeep Gladiator models.
Ooh.
That's not all. Now through September 30th, explore their newly renovated showroom and take advantage of breathtaking deals as they celebrate their grand reopening. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle and then you have to check out the team at Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram because they're the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, you can visit Ray Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com today, serving the community since 1963. That's a lot of words in that name.
That was a lot of words. You
Lot of
nailed
words.
it.
After all those words, might need to crack open a cold one. Oh, I'll do it for you, Greg.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
A cold one of Goose Island Beer, the proud beer sponsor of us here at CHGO and Chicago's beer since 1988. Hey, if you're reaching for a cold one, why not a full pocket Pils? It's the everyday beer that the Goose Island beer brewers are drinking. Or you can get one of their golden cans of 312, the wheat ale, the staple of their year-round beer lineup. Of course, you could also turn to the more heavier beers, their family of Beer Hug Imperial IPAs. We actually have a couple of Beer Hug Imperial IPAs working overtime on our set here. And it is Oktoberfest season, so get yourself a Goose Island Oktoberfest to ring in the fall weather. You can grab all of these and more ultra-fresh brewery-exclusive beers at Goose Island's original brew house on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or you can come to our neck of the woods, go to their tap room on Fulton Street here in Westtown. Again, that is the Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer.
I see what
after
you did. Oh, sorry. I was saying I see what you did there, Mario. You're talking about the boxes holding the TV up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said they were working overtime. I didn't need to say that our TV is being held up by beer can boxes, but there you go.
Never
yeah, that's what they're
sturdier,
doing.
damn it. Never
They have
sturdier.
many uses.
Working hard.
I just noticed that.
Thanks, Goose.
And after you've driven home from work and you're Ray and you sit down with a nice cold Goose Island, cut the cord and flip on that Fubo app,
Sniff.
FuboTV.com/CHGO. You'll get 140 live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. You can stream live TV from any device and watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price. And at FuboTV.com/CHGO, you can start watching immediately with a free trial. There's no contract. There's no cable. There's no hassle. Just sign up and start watching right away. 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge. And you can watch your local teams while traveling. So if you're in Oklahoma, you can turn on the Cubs or the White Sox or the Hawks. And if you want to turn on the Bears, okay, go for it.
Your
But
choice.
all sorts of sports are going on right now. Catch it all on Fubo. Go to FuboTV.com/CHGO to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. Now, we will take a bad stab.
One more super
Oh, yeah,
chat
another
before
super
we
chat.
before we get into our lineups. $5 from Young Dangle God says, all Kane jokes aside, just want to say you guys have been incredible this offseason. So excited for hockey to be back. Hope to see you in Pittsburgh on the 10th. I hope to see Young Dangle God as well, and hopefully he has a couple of dollars to put right into our pockets. I mean the jar.
Yeah, the jar. We'll bring the jar with us.
Yeah.
And
Appreciate
Zach
those
says
kind
2-hour
words.
shows moving forward, boys? No. Thanks, Zach. We appreciate it. We will not be doing that. We appreciate your passion,
No.
though, and just play it twice.
Yeah.
That's fine. Play in reverse like an old Beatles album.
If you
Play it slow
All
it
is
down.
dead. Love him, love him.
Play it at half speed.
if you go to Sunnyside a half hour before it goes
Yeah, there you go.
live, by the time you replay it for the second hour, you'll forget what you listened to in the first hour. It'll be brand new to you.
Exactly.
There you
See? We're always thinking. All right, let's with our limited time remaining, let's take our stabs at the opening night lineup. Who wants to start? I'll go first because I hate mine.
All right.
All right. I don't hate my forward group. I think my forward group is pretty solid. I've got my top line of Taylor Hall, Connor Bedard, and Taylor Radish. That's left to right on your TV screen. I like Radish in that role because I think he brings a little bit of I'm going to go in a corner and get you to the puck.
Yeah.
And I think he's really going to flourish playing with those two. My second line is Lucas Reichel, who we were told will start the season at center. In the middle, with Phil Kurashev on the left and Tyler Johnson on the right. They paid Kurashev. It's time for him to put up or shut up.
Prove it.
They're going to put him on a solid line to get started and hopefully can show this. The third line I'm really excited about. I think this could be a really solid checking line. Jason Dickinson centering Nick Foligno on the left and Corey Perry on the right. You're up a goal late. That could be your trio over the boards to defend that lead. I like that a lot. You lose that element a little bit with Jonathan Taves gone as that automatic protect the lead guy.
Yeah.
Dickinson, Foligno, and Perry could go a long way in that regard. And then my fourth line, and strong point by you bringing up the waiver situation. I still think Cole Gutman's going to play himself into a role here, centering Ryan Donato and Andreas Athanasiou. So Athanasiou, who started your season and played most of your season on your top or second line, is now on the fourth line. He'll get his chance up there. They'll move these pieces around. But that's how I see it shaking out forward-wise for opening night.
Yeah. That's not, again, we've talked about it. The depth and versatility and options that this team has this year compared to last year is making exercises like this more fun. So
Yeah. All right, I'll jump next on the forwards. I too have the same first line. Wow, we agree. Weird. Taylor Hall, Connor Bedard, Taylor Radish. I think Radish is going to get that spot. I know earlier in the offseason I campaigned to give Kurashev a shot up there, see what happens. But I think what we saw at that rookie camp game where they put Colton Dock on that line with Lardis and Bedard, they want to get a guy with some size up there, a guy that's going to get in the corner. Hey, Taylor Radish he had a 20-goal season last year. He can easily repeat that by just getting to the front of the net, letting Connor Bedard shots hit off of him and cleaning up some rebounds. I like that combination. Second line, we got Reichel at center. I got Athanasiou on his left and Ryan Donato starting on that line. Give him a little veteran help on both of his wings. Guys that have also played the center position from times that can, kind of be coaches on the ice as well. And that veteran role, I think Donato is very versatile. Where if Reichel is struggling at the dot, you can put Donato there, take a few draws.
That's why I had Tyler Johnson up there with him, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's where I go. Third line, I got Gutman making the team with Kurashev and Tyler Johnson. That's a pretty darn good third line.
Yeah.
Not even
bad.
comparing it to what we had last year, but I think that's a line that could be sneaky good and score some goals. And I too have Jason Dickinson with the two veterans, Foligno and Perry, as the fourth line. Third, fourth line, doesn't really matter what number you have it at, but that's a really good checking line. Those are the guys you put out there when you want to start a game. I wouldn't be surprised that's a line that starts a few games, takes the opening draw to set a tone, especially when you're playing like
Richardson loves doing that.
just case in point, second game in Boston, usually a heavier team. The Blues are in town, the Wild. You want to start by setting a tone, that first line, get those three guys out there to start checking the hell out of everybody and get that pace going.
I mean, how many times last year did we see a line with Sam Lafferty start a game? You know, it was a good way for a good strategy that Richardson would go to make sure that the team was starting the game with some jump. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens a couple of times this year too. My forwards group, again, top line is the same. Taylor Hall on the left with Connor Bedard in the middle and Taylor Radish on the right side. I see a lot of offensive potential in this group. Second line, I put Khrushchev on the left side of Reichel and then Athanasiou on the right side of Reichel. Andreas Athanasiou and Lucas Reichel looked like they had a lot of good chemistry going last season when they were playing together at the end of the year. Khrushchev's in a spot to prove a lot. I think giving him this opportunity with a guy like Athanasiou that's got a lot of speed to his game. You have Reichel figuring out kind of the two-way center position, but he has a lot of offensive jump to his game. Khrushchev, I think, can build off of that offensive potential that Athanasiou and Reichel have while also being the more defensively responsible forward of this group, taking a little bit of pressure off of Reichel. And all three of those guys have had time at center before, so no matter who needs to take a draw, I think you have a guy that can do it in that trio. I have Ryan Donato on the third line left wing with Jason Dickinson and Tyler Johnson. Again, a little bit of a checking line. Each one of those guys has a little bit of an offensive ability too. I think this is a good third line that can give you a little bit of everything. This is a line that I would trust throwing out there with a 1-goal lead late in the game. And then I have Nick Foligno and Corey Perry on the wings of Mackenzie Entwistle as the fourth line center. And I think for me, in the fourth line group, that bottom six group at the center position, I'm looking at Reese Johnson, Mackenzie Entwistle, and Cole Gutman. And I comes down for me to a coin flip. Now, Gutman offensive potential could be a little bit better than those guys, and I think it'll be interesting to see how he looks post-injury coming into training camp. So if he plays his way into the team, no problems with him being there. But I think if it's a coin flip, I'm going with a guy I don't have to put through waivers. And I think because you have Foligno and Perry and the potential of Tenorti in your lineup, Reese Johnson's skill set, I think, gets pushed down. And Mackenzie Entwistle does a little bit of everything, is able to play heavy when he needs to. I give him that spot in the fourth center.
All right. The reason I didn't have Entwistle is I feel like he'd be the most easy guy to waive. Because I think what the Hawks love most about Entwistle is his makeup more than his game. I think they like the person more than the player. Not to say he can't get better. Of course he can. But I think that's a guy you could probably sneak through waivers without a lot of concern.
Probably, yeah.
So that's why he was left
That's
off
true.
mine. I'm rooting for him, though. I think he's a great kid. And I hope he has a spot on this team. Defensively, and this is what I really don't like, because I've got three rookies for all intents and purposes on the left side. My first pairing is Vlasic and Jones. Then I've got Korchinski and Murphy. And I've got Kaiser and Tenorti. So that's Tenorti playing on his offside, which I also don't love. But I feel like maybe the veteran guy might be the most flexible in that role, especially considering you're looking at 8-9 minutes a game from Jared Tenorti, whereas Kaiser will be getting power play time probably.
He'd at least get like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
you know?
And another thing to know, too, is often on the power play, you'll flip sides so defensemen are on their forehand, right? So they can come off the boards and be on their forehand shooting from the point. We actually talked to Nolan Allen about that last week and said, yeah, I know it's a disadvantage to play the puck along the boards on your offside, but is it advantageous offensively? And he said, absolutely, because you're walking off the boards and with the stick on your forehand. It's much easier to distribute the puck that way. So I think the power play things are going to get mixed up a lot. Do I believe this will be the lineup? Probably not. I'm hoping so.
Opening
but
night,
I think one of these kids, and I think it's probably easiest to tell Wyatt Kaiser don't worry, you're going to be here, but just for now, we're going to start you in Rockford. So I think more realistically, that bottom pair will be Tinordi and Zaitsev to start on game 1.
Could be. Yeah.
But there's no Isaac Phillips there.
No.
Well, who's your extra 3?
My extra 3, I had Blackwell, Kachuk because of how he played, and Zaitsev. And the reason I said those 2 instead of Entwistle is because, like I said before, I think Entwistle is easier to get through waivers than Blackwell or Kachuk.
That's true.
All right.
Who's your defense?
My defense, top 4 are the same. Vlasic and Jones. They've got experience together. They've played well. Korchinski's going to be here opening night. He'll go with Connor Murphy, and I have Tinordi, Zaitsev, 2 veterans playing in their natural spots. Tinordi brings that physicalness that you don't really have on the defense without him. You do and we saw Luke Richardson loves Jared Tinordi for many reasons, so he'll be there. My extra 3 are Colin Blackwell, mentioned because of his speed, and Kachuk. So I think Reese Johnson and Mackenzie Entwistle will start in Rockford and likely will clear waivers.
Yeah.
And then my third guy up is Isaac Phillips. I think he makes the team. I know Kaiser has looked great, and we're saying a lot of the same things we said about Alex Vlasic this time of year, but they sent him down to Rockford. I think Vlasic and Phillips have paid their dues, and they're going to get that. Even if Kaiser looks better than Isaac Phillips in preseason, I think just because Phillips has now got 3 seasons of AHL hockey under his belt, they're going to give him the shot to do it. And if he slips up, Kaiser will be there.
Yeah.
I think some time in the AHL will do Kaiser well. Yeah, he's looked impressive at the rookie camp. He looked impressive in that game, the against the Blues prospects. Looked good those few games he got at the end of the year, but we said that about Alex Vlasic too, and he got a full season. I think it serves Wyatt Kaiser better long term to being the power play quarterback in Rockford, playing top 4 minutes as opposed to being on a third pairing with Nikita Zaitsev or Jared Tinordi playing 11, 12 minutes a game. It's better for him to go play 19, 21 minutes in Rockford in bigger roles than playing a small role in Chicago right now.
Yeah. No, I think that's completely fair. And we did talk about Vlasic, just like we're talking about Kaiser,
Exactly.
and then that's the path that they ended up going. My defensive grouping is Vlasic with Seth Jones at the top, Korchinski on the left, Murphy on the right, and I have Kaiser and Zaitsev starting as a third pair with Jared Tinordi as my extra defenseman who can step in if any of those guys on the left need to take some time out, watch the game from the press box, and take a breather, reevaluate. Tinordi's a guy that can step into those spots. I really think that playing Korchinski with Jones to start the season is setting him up for a lot on his plate, and I don't think that's the best way to go. Put him with Murphy, someone who's more defensively responsible. Allow Korchinski to play into his strengths a little bit more without having to worry too much about getting back on defense. And again, this is just opening night. I don't think this is going to be. It's the potential for him to play all season in the defensive rotation is there. I don't think it's a high likelihood, but it's there. Vlasic and Jones, they've paired well together before. I think that's a good pairing. And then Zaitsev on the right side because he has to be there for the time being. And I have Kaiser playing. I think he's played well enough to get that opportunity. And I think outside of having to be a third pair defenseman, I think he gets maybe a couple of those extra rotations away from Zaitsev and with a little bit more responsibility this season. So that's who I have defensively.
All right.
Kaczynski and Murphy, we can call them like the Hollywood phone number pairing, 555.
There you go.
That's
I
true.
like that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's a good one.
All right. Let's
start it tomorrow.
Tomorrow we have, instead of speculating, we'll actually get to see some of this stuff in
Real
function and in action.
stuff.
And we are currently 8 days away from the first preseason game.
I'm excited.
So bring it on. We will have tons of audio and video. I always say audio because I'm a program radio person, but we'll have video from Hawks practice tomorrow. We'll hear from Luke Richardson, several of the players, of course. So join us. We're tomorrow at 3.
Yep.
So I know we're changing schedule all week, but we're trying to accommodate as best we can with practices and everything. So don't miss it. On your way out, please smash that like button. We gave you 10 extra minutes. Give us 10 extra likes, damn it.
Yeah.
We would really, really appreciate that. And get in the habit of smashing that like button when you made it in. And look, now that the season's beginning and there's new interest in the Hawks, if you see or hear some new friends talking about the Hawks for the first time, point them in our direction. Let them know about the YouTube. Let them know about the podcast. Let them know we're here. Because although we've been a rocket to the moon since CHGO launched, more is always better. Let people know about us. Spread the word. Help us out in that regard. And we greatly appreciate it. So until tomorrow at 3, for Greg and Mario, I'm Jay. This has been the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast.